Lucy and Alex had been married for 5 years. They dated for a couple of years before that, and during a beach vacation, Alex proposed to her in the most magical way. Lucy, ever since her college days, had a big circle of friends. They loved getting together, traveling, going to concerts. Alex, on the other hand, never quite clicked with that group. He wasn't into their hangouts, being more reserved by nature. Every few months, Lucy would drag him along anyway, but she eventually stopped pushing too hard when she realized how uncomfortable he was around them. At first, Lucy was annoyed that her husband refused to join her social life, calling him boring, but she soon realized there was no point forcing him. One weekend, the friend group had another get-together. Alex predictably decided not to go, and something shocking happened. Mark, an old friend they hadn't seen in years because he'd moved overseas for work, unexpectedly showed up at the apartment where the group was hanging out. Everyone in that circle adored Mark. He was the life of the party, always ready with funny or fascinating stories, and whenever he hosted gatherings, all eyes and ears were on him. Turns out Mark's work contract abroad was up, and while he was deciding whether to renew or not, he took a vacation back in his hometown. All night, the group peppered him with questions about life in Europe, about everything that had happened to him. Lucy couldn't take her eyes off him. He'd changed so much since she last saw him. He looked great, clearly worked out, and still had that same charm and swagger she remembered. Mark basked in everyone's excitement, but Lucy's reaction felt especially meaningful to him. Long ago, they'd almost become a couple. Back in the day, at someone's birthday party, they'd had a little too much to drink, ended up confessing they'd been crushing on each other for ages, and by morning, found themselves waking up side by side. But the timing was horrible. Mark had just finalized a job offer abroad. All the paperwork was done, and he flew out the following week. Lucy was heartbroken at first, but had no choice but to move on with her life. Not long after, she met Alex. Whatever feelings she'd had for Mark got buried under new love and new beginnings. She never told Alex about that fling, or that she and Mark had once shared something more than friendship. So that evening, when Lucy got home from the big get-together, she excitedly told Alex about how Mark had returned from overseas and popped in on everyone's gathering. She practically sparkled while recounting Mark's stories, retelling them as if she'd been along for the ride herself. She couldn't stop raving about him. In fact, Alex felt a little stung by how starry-eyed Lucy seemed whenever she said Mark's name. Finally, he cut her off with a biting remark about that show-off Mark. Lucy went silent, stared at her husband in offended disbelief, and spoke only a curt, "Good night," before heading to bed. A week passed, and Lucy couldn't stop thinking about Mark. She kept replaying how good it felt to be around him, how playful and easy their conversation was, as though he could finish her sentences. Even her coworkers asked if she was okay, because she seemed so spaced out at work. Eventually, Lucy stopped fighting it. She messaged Mark herself, asking if he'd like to meet up. He wrote back almost instantly, agreeing. That evening, she texted Alex that she'd be working late, and not to wait up for dinner. Lucy and Mark met at a little cafe, chatted and laughed for hours. Lucy felt exactly as she had all those years ago, so light and carefree in his presence. She didn't need any wine or cocktails. The rush of emotion was enough to make her dizzy. So when Mark invited her to keep talking back at his place, she said yes without hesitation. And of course, mere conversation wasn't the only thing that happened. From that day on, Lucy deceived her husband, claiming more frequent friend group, outings or extra tasks at work on weekdays. Because Alex never bothered to check up on her or join her events, he stayed in the dark for a while. One day, Alex finished work and decided to walk home just to clear his head. Lucy had mentioned she'd be working late yet again, so there was no rush. He could always heat up dinner whenever he got back. He was lost in thought when a familiar voice called out from behind. "Hey, Alex, where have you been hiding?" said Chris, strolling up. Chris was also part of Lucy's big group of friends. The men shook hands, started chatting. "How's Lucy doing?" Chris asked. "I haven't seen her in ages. Everything okay?" "Wait, I thought you guys hung out practically every week?" Alex replied, confused. "No, it's been ages since we all got together. People's schedules don't match up or something." "Always comes up," Chris said, sounding disappointed. Alex stared at him in disbelief, trying to process that. "When was the last time you all met up?" he asked. Maybe a month and a half ago, when Mark suddenly came to visit," Chris said. That hit Alex like a jolt of electricity. Mark, the same friend Lucy, couldn't stop gushing about. Ever since that reunion, Lucy's been suspiciously busy. In that instant, Alex realized what was really going on. These so-called friend hangouts and late nights at work were a cover for something else. He remembered Lucy telling him there'd be another group meetup this coming Saturday. He asked Chris if he knew about it, and Chris said no, they had no such plan. So Alex decided to follow Lucy and catch her in the act. On Saturday, once Lucy headed out, Alex used a phone app that let them see each other's locations, installed ages ago for emergencies. Lucy had always assumed Alex would never use it because he trusted her. 30 minutes later, Alex found himself outside an average apartment building, parked near the entrance Lucy's phone had led him to. He waited, scanning the doorways. In under an hour, Lucy came out from another doorway, checking her phone, probably calling for a cab. She looked flushed, her hair slightly mussed, as if someone had been running fingers through it. Alex honked the horn. Lucy glanced over in confusion, clearly not recognizing the car at first. Then she approached slowly and awkwardly. She opened the passenger door, stammering, "What are you doing here?" He calmly told her to get in. They sat there in silence for half a minute. Lucy, feeling the tension spike, finally asked what was going on. Alex said he knew everything, that there was no group meetup, and he invited her to come clean about where and with whom she'd really been. Lucy tried playing innocent, but Alex was long past believing her. He started shouting, and she eventually admitted she'd been with Mark. Without another word, Alex fired up the engine and drove off. Lucy asked, panicked, "Where are we going?" He replied, "To pack your stuff. I'm done living with you." Their divorce happened fast. Alex felt crushed, trying not to dwell on how his wife had betrayed him. As for Lucy, she wasn't all that upset. She kept dating Mark, relieved that now they didn't have to hide. In her mind, she dreamed of a long, stable future with him. But what she forgot was that Mark had been upfront with everyone that he was only back in town temporarily. When Lucy found out he'd be leaving in a week, she begged him to take her with him, no matter how far. She assumed he'd cover her tickets and visa. But Mark wasn't the type to spend big on a woman he'd just reconnected with. Lucy herself certainly didn't have the money. She forgot that Alex, her husband, had always taken care of things for her, but Mark wouldn't do the same. For a while, Lucy stayed head over heels for Mark, texting him constantly, but eventually learned he'd started seeing someone else in his home country. Her heart shattered. She was left alone with her regrets. A deep gloom, like a heavy blanket, settled over her, and she couldn't find a way out. She threw herself into her job just to avoid feeling lonely all day. But at night, she faced her broken heart all by herself.